So you moved abroad, you packed your life into however many suitcases, landed in a new country, and now you're staring down the question that every expat eventually faces. Do you work for a foreign company remotely? Or do you actually go local and get hired by a company inside your host country? Today, we're diving deep into what that second option actually looks like from the inside, because nobody talks about this honestly enough. And I want to change that right now. I have spoken to expats living and working locally in countries across Southeast Asia, Europe, the Middle East, and Latin America. And what I found is that the experience is wildly different from what most people expect. So whether you're considering this move or you're already knee-deep in a local job and wondering why everything feels slightly off, this video is for you. Let's start with the obvious first question. Why would you even want to work locally in your host country in the first place? The most common reason is integration. When you work for a local company, you stop being a tourist with a longer visa. You become part of the fabric of daily life in your adopted home. You build genuine relationships with locals, you learn the unwritten rules of society, you develop real language skills under pressure, and you stop experiencing the country through a glass window. That is genuinely powerful. And if deep integration is your goal, local employment is one of the fastest routes there. The second reason is stability. Local employment usually comes with formal contracts, social security contributions, healthcare access through the local system, and sometimes pension contributions. Depending on which country you're in, these benefits can be incredibly valuable. In Germany, for example, being plugged into the statutory health insurance system through employment means comprehensive coverage that would cost you significantly more if you were sourcing private insurance independently. In France, the social protection framework for employed workers is famously robust. These are real financial advantages that remote-only workers sometimes overlook. The third reason people go local is simply opportunity. Sometimes the best job available to you in your field exists inside a local company, not a foreign one. If you're in a specialized industry, or you want to climb in a sector that is rooted in your host country, local employment is not just an option. It's the only meaningful path forward. Now, here is where things get complicated. Because for every genuine advantage of working locally, there is a corresponding challenge that you need to understand before you commit. Let's talk about salary expectations first, because this is where most expats experience the sharpest reality check. When you take a local job, you are typically paid on local salary scales. This sounds obvious, but the implications run deeper than most people anticipate. If you moved from the United States or Western Europe into a country with a lower cost of living, your local salary might feel perfectly adequate day to day. But if you have financial obligations back home, student debt, supporting family members, saving in a stronger currency, the numbers can start to create real tension. Your purchasing power inside the country might be fine. Your ability to build international financial security might suffer. The reverse situation also exists. Expats moving into high-cost, high-salary markets like Switzerland, Singapore, or certain Gulf states may find that local compensation packages are actually incredibly competitive, sometimes exceeding what they could earn at home. So the salary conversation is entirely dependent on the specific pairing of where you came from and where you now are. There is also the issue of how your foreign background is valued. In some countries, being a foreigner with international experience commands a genuine premium. In others, local candidates are preferred, and you might actually find yourself offered lower compensation than a local equivalent. Understanding which dynamic operates in your specific host country is essential before you walk into any negotiation. Now, let's get into what I think is the most underestimated part of this entire conversation. Work culture shifts. Every country has an invisible operating manual for professional life. The rules around hierarchy, communication styles, how you express disagreement, how decisions get made, what it means to work hard, how much of your personal life bleeds into professional relationships. These norms are so deeply embedded that locals operate by them unconsciously. You, as an outsider, will have to learn them consciously and often painfully. In Japan, the concept of consensus building before decisions are finalized means that things move in ways that can feel glacial to someone coming from a faster-paced or more top-down environment. In Brazil, relationship building is not separate from professional life. It is professional life. And skipping that step will cost you trust regardless of your competence. In some Middle Eastern contexts, hierarchy is extremely pronounced, and navigating it incorrectly can derail your effectiveness entirely. None of these are criticisms. They are simply realities. And the expats who thrive in local employment are consistently the ones who approach these cultural operating systems with genuine curiosity rather than frustration. The ones who frame it as, "This is interesting. How does this work?" rather than, "This is inefficient. Let me fix it." There is also the language dimension. Even in companies that operate in English, the real conversations often happen in the local language. During coffee breaks, in side hallways, in group chats. If you are not operating in that language, you are missing context constantly. This is not insurmountable, but it is a real disadvantage that takes active effort over time to address. Let's talk about benefits more specifically now, because they vary enormously by country, and they matter more than people realize when evaluating a total compensation package. Healthcare access through local employment is often the single biggest benefit expats undervalue. In many countries, being formally employed unlocks access to public or semi-public healthcare systems at minimal cost. This can represent thousands of dollars in annual savings compared to maintaining private expat health insurance. Pension or retirement contributions are another area where local employment provides long-term value, though the complexity of international pension portability is something you absolutely need to research for your specific situation. Annual leave entitlements also vary dramatically. Workers in many European countries are legally entitled to significantly more paid leave than workers in North America. Some countries layer in additional public holidays generously. Understanding what you are entitled to legally versus what your specific employer provides is crucial before you sign anything. One more thing I want to address directly because it comes up constantly in expat communities: the question of whether local employment limits your flexibility or locks you into one place. The answer is nuanced. Formal local employment does create ties. Depending on your visa situation, your right to remain in the country may be linked to your employment status, which means leaving a job is not as simple as just resigning. There are notice periods that vary by country and can sometimes be quite long. There are tax residency considerations. There are benefit accrual timelines that affect what you walk away with if you leave early. This does not mean local employment is a trap. It means it is a commitment that deserves serious evaluation, not just an experiment you casually try. The expats I have seen thrive in local employment share a few consistent traits. They come in genuinely humble about what they do not yet know. They prioritize building relationships over proving themselves. They learn the language even imperfectly. They give themselves at least 12 to 18 months before drawing any conclusions about whether local work life suits them. And they understand the full compensation picture, not just the headline salary number. If you are weighing this decision right now, My honest recommendation is to get as specific as possible. Research your exact host country, your exact industry, your exact stage of career. Talk to other foreigners who have done it in that specific context. The general advice will only take you so far. Local employment is not the right answer for every expat. But for the right person in the right country, at the right stage of their journey abroad, it can genuinely transform your entire experience of living internationally. The question is whether you are ready to do the work to make it work. Drop a comment below and tell me which country you are in or considering, and let's keep this conversation going.